You may be seated. Friends, it is my delight to be with you this morning. My name is Rachel McIver-Morey, and I come to you bringing greetings both from my denomination. I stand before you, an ordained United Methodist clergywoman, and we have long been friends to the Episcopalians. And I also bring you greetings from Interfaith Action of Greater St. Paul, where I serve on staff as the Program Director of Opportunity St. Paul. And I want to say, as we begin, a word of thank you to my clergy host, Pastor Jared. What a delightful group of clergy leadership you have, amen? Oh my goodness. And we had just a delightful conversation in the adult forum about the work of Interfaith Action of Greater St. Paul and the amazing things that are happening here at John the Evangelist. So it is such a delight to be with you this morning. And as we come together, I want to begin with a question for you. What is the strangest invitation you have ever received? What is the strangest? Now, I'm not talking about to the strangest thing. I have some of those. And you know, for an example, when my family, we moved to Northfield about 10 years ago, and our very first December, we received an invitation to a party happening at 6:30 in the morning. It was December the 13th, and it turns out that some local folks hosted an annual Santa Lucia party to which we were invited. That was sweet of them, wasn't it? Wasn't that just delightful of them? And I thought that was a great invitation story until just this last week we had the opportunity to be on vacation. We were staying with some clergy friends and colleagues in Sacramento, California, Presbyterian. And my clergy colleague there was telling a story about a parishioner of his who invited friends to put on formal wear, tuxedos and gowns, make up a meal, for a potluck meal, to bring a dish to pass and bring silverware, and to join him to eat a formal potluck dinner in their local IKEA store. I'm not making any of those words up. That actually happened. And so they arrived with their potluck food and their silverware. And have you ever been to an IKEA store? Raise a hand. Yeah, I got some. Okay, good. This is a familiar reference point for many. And if you've ever been in one, it's a warren of displays of their various housewares and the like. So one looks like a dorm room, one's a bedroom, that sort of thing. So they went to the dining room section of their local IKEA. They found a table, they cleared it, and they put down their food, and they began to have this formal potluck dinner while the IKEA was open and people were shopping. We're going to come back to that. I want to go back to my original question, which is, what is the strangest invitation itself you have ever received? Not the event that was weird, but the invitation was strange. And I say that because we come to that idea in our passage from Proverbs read today. And I'm going to read these words again because this is a strange invitation. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her animals. She has mixed her wine. She also has set her table. She has sent out her servant girls. She calls down from the highest places in the town, "You that are simple, turn in here." To those without sense, she says, "Come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. Lay aside immaturity and live. Walk in the way of insight." I submit to you, this is a strange invitation. It's worse than strange. It's insulting. Wisdom goes out. She sends out her servant girls to say, essentially, "Hey, idiots, come to my house. Be less stupid." How would you respond? And what does it say whether you accept the invitation or decline it? What does it say? The rest of the passages we heard this morning in our lectionary readings carry through this Eucharistic logic of the table, right? Did we hear the table? We heard of eating my flesh and drinking my blood in the Gospel of John. And that is an extension of this table idea. We hear this same idea in the parable of the feast, of the banquet in which the host goes out to the highways and byways to recruit the blind, the lame, the cast out. It is an insulting invitation. You that are broken, that are faulty, that are foolish, have I got a party for you? Come to my table. It's an insult. And so, because it is insulting, that means that accepting this invitation is, in fact, a confession, is it not? A confession that, yeah, I'm not wise. I am not bright. I carry no insight. This is where I belong. The table of grace is the only place for me because I am not wise. It is interesting because the book of Proverbs itself follows a different logic and a different format from much of the rest of it. It tends to be very aphoristic. The good do this, the bad do this. The wise do this, the unwise do this. Children of light do this. Children of darkness do this. So on and so forth and so on and so forth. It's very aphoristic. But here we have wisdom personified. Lady Sophia gone out into the highways and byways to find the unwise among us, to find the unwise who are us, and invite us to the feast. What an invite. And what does it say if we decline? What does it say if we accept? It's an insulting invitation to acknowledge or to imply or to frankly just say that you are inviting the other person because they lack something. Is that not the case? But in fact, that is in fact what we do at the table, at the Eucharist. In my tradition and yours, we begin the Eucharistic prayer with what? Confession. Every time. In my tradition, we also have a song we sing, "Come ye sinners poor and needy." Come ye sinners poor and needy, weak and wounded by the fall. If you tarry till you're better, you will never come at all. It is at the table we become wise. It is at the table we become well. Wisdom's invitation is a Eucharistic invitation. I come to you today as from one of your partners at Interfaith Action of Greater St. Paul. It used to be the St. Paul Area Council of Churches. We've been interfaith now for a few decades. And every time I send out member invitation, I think, this is insulting. This is insulting. Hey, wonderful congregations, faith communities, and wisdom gatherings of St. Paul. Come join us because you can't do what you want to do on your own. And what does it say if you accept? And what does it say if we decline? And the truth is, I've not served a congregation yet in my 20 years of ordained ministry that could do everything it wanted to do by itself. Let the people of God say amen. We're not built for it. We need each other. We need each other to do the good we're called to do. 20-some years ago, it was the congregations of St. Paul that got together in places just like this in your fireside room and said, we have families that don't have safe places to stay overnight. What are we going to do about it? And not one congregation had the means to do the whole thing. But all together, for 20 years, congregations and faith communities and wisdom gatherings of this city hosted families in their buildings overnight, where families went to a day center during the day to receive services and get up and out of the situation they found themselves in. We called it Project Home. Maybe some of you remember it and have been part of it, and served meals at our new site at St. Kate's Provincial House. It was in places like this where that same idea and project got spun up again this last spring in a program we call Faithful Hospitality. It's the same idea, only for asylum seekers who have come to this country and don't have housing. And the member communities of Interfaith Action of Greater St. Paul won the Department of Human Services Community Hero Award for spinning it up so quickly and now having 26 families in services. We couldn't do that on our own if we wanted to. We need each other to do what we're called to do, to be who we're called to be. Accepting an invitation to that work is an acknowledgement, is a confession that, yeah, we don't have the juice to do that by ourselves. We don't have the wisdom to know everything that needs to be known. We don't have the strength to do everything that needs to be done. What we do have is each other and a calling and a table of grace to feed us. And that is sufficient and more than sufficient to do so. My program area, Opportunity St. Paul, I get to hang out with you all, so best job in the agency. But I get to build bridges between faith communities like yours and vetted partner organizations. We extend the Eucharistic logic even outside of our faith communities into our nonprofit sector here in St. Paul. For folks who want to volunteer and serve in tutoring youth and teaching literacy and doing workforce development and providing housing and assistance to families providing housing and Common Bond. I grew up in South Central Kansas. My mom was an English teacher and my dad was a warden at the local prison. And one of the things that was a truism in our house was that if mom and her teachers that she worked with, if they would see the numbers struggling in third grade with literacy, and that was the number that the state used to determine prison beds 10 years out, was third grade literacy. So for folks who feel called to be part of the project of helping teach our young people how to read, that's good, holy work, and we can't do it by ourselves. And we have people who know how to do it already. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's connect the folks with the calling to the folks with the curriculum, amen? It's the Eucharistic logic extended, table to person, agency to agency. We need each other. Not one of us is wise unto ourselves, not one of us is sufficient unto ourselves, and that's good news. We weren't made to be. I want to return to IKEA, metaphorically. And this time, I want to invite you there with me, and I want you to imagine that you are there at IKEA shopping that day. Can you imagine? Imagine you're just going through looking for shelves for the bathroom. That's all you're there for. And you're a little cranky that you have to go through the maze that IKEA sets up. And as you get through the tablescapes and as you get through the dining area, and all of a sudden you see this group of people in tuxedos and formal gowns having a dinner in the middle of the dining display. What do you make of that? What do you make of that? Outstanding. That's funny. Now, if it were me, I'll be honest, I would probably call or text my husband and say, "You're not going to believe this." And I'd probably keep walking. But I wonder if anybody else might sort of linger, listen in on the conversation that's happening at the table. Think about how much fun these people seem to be having, wondering why staff hasn't kicked them out yet. And maybe wondering what it would take to get an invitation to the next time something like this is happening. And what does it say if you decline the invitation? And what does it say if we accept the invitation to feast, the invitation to joy in a place and a time that no one expected to see it? Amen.